Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois WorkNet, and we are going to be talking about safety because June is National Safety Month. We're going to talk about safety in the workplace. And with us today is Martin Hernandez. He is with FCT. And Martin, why don't you take a moment to tell us what your company does and how you go about doing it?
All right. Well, this is I'm with FCT. We provide comprehensive services to include consultations, inspections, written programs, submittal packages, and expert witness testimony for environmental and occupational cases, and safety training and representation for our clients, which include occupational health solutions, workplace audits and OSHA compliance solutions, and comprehensive engineering services. And about myself, I have been working with safety for about 9 years with a trucking company and as well as a consultant. My expertise is OSHA and the Department of Transportation. My expertise is comprehensive, and I've developed countless customized training presentations based on the client's needs, specific size of the industry, and also the business. And I'm passionate about compliance, about protecting employees and teaching companies how to use safety and to both improve the work environment and increase their bottom line as well.
Well, great. That's wonderful. So let's move on to the agenda for today. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about safety captains, safety conversations that you can have with your employees, safety resources, emergency preparedness, fire safety, and then wellness, falls, and driving. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to find out, everybody has a safety officer, right? But the office had a very special one because he's the Chief National Officer of Office Safety Officers. A little levity always helps. But let's talk a little bit about safety captains. Why are they important, and what can they help with a business?
Yes, so safety captains are very important. Their key function is to have someone step up and take the responsibility or give it to them through the leadership they have shown and some of the training that they have acquired through safety courses.
And can anybody be a safety captain? Does it take somebody special?
It's just someone who's dedicated to safety, someone who is, like I said, shows leadership, has training, has developed leadership, but also there's also training for what's called a floor captain for to deal with the fire department.
And then do the safety captains normally meet with anybody in particular when there's not an emergency going on?
Yeah, so a safety captain is a good person to have in a safety committee if it's developed within a business. They are firsthand, they're usually inline employees that are seeing the hazards and could communicate to supervisors and upper management about the situation, what they need help with dealing.
Good. It also says here that they ease panic, stress, and help restore order to the workplace. So they have to have a level head and stay calm in stressful situations, I would assume.
Yes. So a safety captain is a position that's very key. Everybody acts different to emergencies, but this person needs to be trained and level-headed, just as you said, Dee.
Great. All right, let's move on to our next topic, safety conversations with employees. I know my husband and I have a construction company, so we used this particular resource, this safety toolbox topics, because they had a whole lot of information that you could share with employees in just a few minutes. And this is something that everybody should do. So when do you suggest that people have safety conversations with their employees?
I think at a minimum, every time a shift is starting, because every day there's different hazards that come across. But the safety tool talks are A great idea to have everybody involved and on the different hazards and the different things they have to deal with every day. For the most part, operations it limits the time that we meet, but at least once a week. I tell everyone at least take 5 minutes, 10 minutes away to let everybody in your group know what to look for today, and just kind of remind them and hammer down what's important out there.
And it's always, this particular resource has little handouts that you can give to people as well. So that's what I liked about that. You could always stuff one in a paycheck or put it with their time card so that they could take a look at it at a particular moment.
Yes, yes. And safety conversations, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dee.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So safety conversations are tool talks, but as an employer and as an employee, it's very hard sometimes to have a conversation past the toolbox if you want to convey how important safety is to the operation and what's going on during that day. So there's different methods, either a supervisor or an owner to start the conversation without being, combative, being more of a positive way to communicate what you're looking for.
Right. Very good. All right, moving on to the next topic, we've got some resources, and there are hundreds of them, I am sure. But a couple of the major ones we wanted to highlight here. So OSHA covers, what, every industry that ever happened?
OSHA's mission is to protect America's workers. So if you're an employer who has an employee, they're, depending on the industry that you have, there's either a vertical standard or horizontal standard that fall into all industries. So they are there to protect America's workers.
Great. Another place that people could check is with their workman's comp provider. Most organizations that will sell you workman's compensation insurance will also have some safety resources based on the industry in which you are working, so you might want to check with them. Illinois WorkNet has a few articles we have listed at the end of the presentation. And then people like Martin, who's a safety consultant, can come in and do you do audits on businesses?
Yes, so we do audits for any of the processes and the required compliance requirements that any industry or any a company might need, whether it be construction, general industry. If you have a business out there, there are certain audits you need to do and certain reports that you need to have.
Great. I'm going to move on to the next slide because we have a few more resources on it. So, Martin, do you want to talk a little bit about these particular resources? I know that you recommended several of them for us to include in the presentation. So talk to me about those.
Yes, so the first one that I want to get to is NIOSH. It's the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Their mission is to develop knowledge in the field of occupational safety and health and transfer that knowledge into practice. So the NIOSH programs are responsive to occupational safety and health problems that burden today's and tomorrow's workers. They're more of a research side of OSHA. Their number one goal is to conduct the research to reduce the workers' illnesses and injuries and advance the work being. Their second goal is to promote safety and health for workers through interventions, recommendations, and a capacity of building. And number three is to enhance work safety and health through global collaborations. So, yeah, pretty much OSHA, it's more of the compliance, kind of make sure that everybody's doing everything right. But OSHA gives the NIOSH to come up with the standards through research.
Great. And then we've got ANSI.
Yes, so ANSI is also another association that it deals with OSHA. And ANSI, it's the American National Standards Institute. and has served as a capacity as an administrator and a coordinator in the United States for the private sector for a standardization for system for more than 90 years. They were actually founded in 1918 by 5 engineering societies and 3 government agencies. Throughout its history, ANSI has maintained a primary goal and enhancement for global competitiveness in the U.S. and American quality of life by promoting facilitating consensus standards. So ANSI, what it is if you're in safety and you're a business owner or an employee, they test and they communicate the different kind of tests that they have for PPE. So if you are using and PPE is personal protective equipment, if you're using certain safety glasses, or they're approved by ANSI because they've gone through all the different boards to be approved to be accepted by OSHA. OSHA does not authorize or endorse anything. OSHA is a compliance part. So whenever you hear anybody says, well, it's OSHA authorized, it's just marketing. OSHA does not authorize anything.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
That's good to know. So then what about this AOHP?
So AOHP is yes, AOHP, it's the Association of Occupational Health Professionals in Healthcare. So I really like this association because they're dedicated to the health and safety and well-being of the healthcare workers, and is the only national professional organization exclusive mission in addressing the needs and the concerns for the healthcare industry. They are a very good organization, so if we have any people who are looking into get into healthcare, this is a good organization to be in because they will give you a lot of information on safety and some training opportunities for you guys.
Great. And then I also added the NSC, which is the National Safety Council. That organization is focusing on a whole lot of different things, and I just found all sorts of resources available on their website. The page actually shows a whole section on work safety, and the screenshot actually shows fatigue at work and how you can handle that. So I thought that was another great resource, and I found it because of the driving article that we were looking at for this webinar, but then I discovered all of these other resources that were on there. So I think this is a great resource as well.
Yes, it is. They've been around for a long time, and they do have a lot of different topics that they do offer.
Good. Let's move on to emergency preparedness. Now, right there, it shows a picture of an emergency checklist, and I know a lot of times people have said, well, in case there's a tornado or a flood or something, and you happen to be out and away, and the kids are at school, and husband is at work, and wife is at her job, what do you do if there's an emergency in where you live? Where do you all meet? What do you do? How do you get out of the building? How do you get out of the house? The checklist is just really important. I want you to add a few items here too. What can people do for emergency preparedness?
Emergency preparedness is you need to have a plan. If in case of any kind of emergency, whether it be man-made or weather or a fire or a chemical release, there has to be a preparedness. There should be emergency routes posted, fire extinguishers should be tested, and again, we go back to the safety captain, have people who are responsible for each of the department if there is an emergency, where to meet, how to take a road call. Worst case scenario is you are not prepared and don't have a checklist, and find out that you can't really identify how many people were in the building or even in your home.
Well, it reminds me of the the fire drills that they have in schools. The teacher has to count how many kids there are and know who's not there that day, and it just makes a whole lot of sense.
Yes. So I unfortunately I was part of a case where a father and son work at a company, and the company did not have a emergency preparedness program, and they had a chemical fire. This was before cell phones were around, and there was a fire. The young man ran out, was scared, went straight home, went to his house because he didn't know where to go. The father also came out, and unfortunately, he thought his son was still inside, went back in, and passed away. So it's very important to have an emergency preparedness program. They are very detailed. Each one of them is made out for each premise, whether it be at home or at work. But it's something that's required by OSHA and also to keep everyone safe as well.
That's great. Well, and this segues right into our next slide, which is on fire safety. And I had asked someone from Advocate Healthcare System to join us, but they had a scheduling conflict. So they shared some information with me that I wanted to share with you. And they talked about these two different options when it comes to fires. And the first one is about getting people taken care of during the fire. And then the second one is trying to eliminate a fire. So when using fire extinguishers, it's important to know where they're located in a building. So Martin, I think you just mentioned that in your emergency preparedness stuff, to know what type they are so that they're not using the incorrect type on a different kind of fire. So like chemical fire is different than wood fire, and fuel or grease, they're all different. So there's water and type K extinguishers, and carbon dioxide extinguishers are for electrical fires. Another tool that the hospital uses is ensuring that the staff has knowledge of evacuation routes. So that's back to part of the emergency preparedness. Hospitals are different than other types of buildings because you have to defend in place. And that means that the building is designed to protect people within the building using fire doors and fire barriers, kind of like a submarine would do. They've got those locks, the door locks that will block off a whole portion of a boat, a ship. They educate their staff on knowing where they can go if they need to evacuate. There is horizontal evacuation, which means staying on the current floor that you are on and then proceeding to move behind a fire barrier and fire doors adjacent to the unit that you are on. And then you'll be safe for 1 to 4 hours depending on the rating of the system. I know in building houses there's fire ratings on garage doors because in case of a car fire it keeps the house safer. So there's also those kind of ratings on other doors in different types of buildings. And there's Mr. Grana also said that floors are protected from each other by a 2-hour fire rating in a hospital, meaning it should take 2 hours for a full-strength fire to permeate to another floor. So that gives firefighters a chance to get that fire under control. So they've got fire sprinklers, and sometimes things trigger at a certain temperature. This one looks like it's 140 to 160 degrees. They spray at very high pressure to try to put out the fires, and there's also heat detectors. Just like in a home, your house might have a smoke alarm or a carbon monoxide alarm. The hospitals also have the same systems. General fire safety in buildings is always helpful education as well. Did you know, when I was reading this, the comments from Mr. Grana from Advocate, he said microwaves are one of the most common appliances to cause a fire due to misuse. Always follow the directions when using them and do not put improper items into microwaves such as unapproved plastics, metals, paper, etc. And then he also told me about daisy chaining. Do you know what daisy chaining is, Martin?
I do not. What is?
Daisy chaining is when you plug one power strip into another power strip into another power strip to get that distance that you should have from just using an extension cord and maybe the power strip at the end. I thought that was I thought that was cute because I knew that people do that, but I didn't know that it was called daisy chaining. And you're also not supposed to use. Go ahead.
I have not heard the term itself that, but there is a regulation that an employer could be cited for that, and it's using extension cords where there actually could be a permanent installation for any kind of machining. So if there's a machine or anything that could be used as a permanent installation with either a breaker or a designated outlet for that machine, that is the way to go. But that is true. Multiple electrical equipment into either one of those breakers will, catch fire.
Nice. And then the last thing that Mr. Grant offered from Advocate was most regulations regarding fire safety come from the National Fire Protection Agency, NFPA, and they have hundreds of books with codes and standards that have to be used to protect occupants in everything from homes to high-rises to warehouses. And most electrical appliances come with instructions and warnings that describe proper usage and safety tips to prevent fires. So not only houses, but offices and warehouses often have kitchen spots. So that microwave in that place could set up a fire, and it could just cause all kinds of havoc because it could be a grease plant. So
yes.
You have to be very careful.
Yeah.
So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about wellness. And wellness is also one of those things that you have to be safe with. And it's a little bit more of a challenge for organizations to deal with wellness when it comes to safety. In most cases, they deal with wellness when it is related to health benefits. But I think if you're aware of the wellness of your employees, if they're happy and healthy, they're going to be more cautious, I do believe. Well, would you agree with that?
It creates a culture with wellness that if you take care of yourself, you will also take care of your surroundings, and it's just a chain reaction. So always having employee wellness helps everyone, yourself especially, and everyone around you. You'll be in a better mood. You'll be in a more susceptible to actually be more positive.
Right. A lot of times, this particular article was brought from the National Institute on Health, but you can also find a lot of wellness information from your health insurance providers. I know we had Blue Cross Blue Shield for a while, and they just had myriads of articles available for you to read or review as you were going through your daily life. And they often suggested things in their monthly newsletter. So it's times like this that you might do your toolbox talk on a safety piece and then 1 month throw in a wellness item as well. Next, we want to talk about falls. And with falls, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, slips, trips, and falls make up the majority of general industry accidents, which account for 15% of all accidental deaths per year. It's the second leading cause behind motor vehicles. I was just amazed when I read that statistic. And then about 25% of all reported injury claims are because of falls per fiscal year. There's more than 95 million lost work days per year, which is about 65% of all work days lost. I was just astounded by those statistics, Martin.
That is the leading case, yes. And, there is an article as well from the labor statistic that there has been 991 construction workers that have died on the job. And 38% of all actual falls in constructions result in fatalities. So it's very, very important, and it also translates to the general industry, which is one of the either improper use of ladders, and not having the correct training and housekeeping. Housekeeping is a very common slips, trips, and falls, and identifying what type of equipment you need to get up and down from different levels.
Yeah. And I put this picture up here on this slide because we can't all walk around in a bubble. We have to live our lives, but we just have to make sure that as an employer we're making it safer for our employees to not have that slip, trip, and fall.
Yes, definitely. And again, some of the most common general industry hazards are ladders, stairways, dock boards, and scaffolding have been very dangerous without the proper training.
And we've got all of those items on our list here that I pulled out of Grainger.com. So that's there again. Lots of resources on safety available to you. So
yes,
now
I'm sorry.
Go
yes,
ahead.
And again, if all these standards from different organizations, especially from OSHA, that's why if there's a company that needs more information, they could definitely go to OSHA.gov. But also, at the same time, remember there's other people out there that we could answer questions, just like SCT or OSHA itself. If you have any questions, you can give them a call. But if you need more of a comprehensive study of what where you stand, making an audit is the best way to go.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about driving. And I just pulled this up from the National Safety Council. I actually had to do the safety driving course because I got a speeding ticket.
Oh, no.
So, but it was very informative, so I was glad I did it.
Got it. Yes.
But
so
talk to us a little bit about driving.
So there's basically defensive driving safety training and all types of different topics in driving. But first I wanted to start off that a lot of people believe with technology now, with having your cell phone in the car, driving, whether it be on your hands or hands off, there's been studies that it doesn't really matter. It's just your brain being distracted. That is the main thing with any defensive driving, is that your brain needs to be, or your focus needs to be on the driving itself. Just because it's hands off does not mean that your attention is not in where it's supposed to be. Yeah.
And distracted driving, I don't know the percentage unless you do, of distracted driving has got to be one of the highest causes of accidents in automobile accidents.
Yes, it is. It is very high up there, if not the when just like when I dealt with a lot of truck drivers. These are professional drivers that have taken courses or are going to their safety meetings, and for whatever reason they seem to, every time they back up with a tractor trailer and a 53-footer, they'll hit a handrail. And it's not because they don't know how to back up a truck, it's because they're distracted. So I think it's probably, if not the root cause for almost every accident that we have out there right now, one way or the other, it's there.
Right. Well, this brings us to the end of our presentation. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you happen to be watching the recording, we do have the PowerPoint presentation available for you so that you can click on these links that were in the presentation and actually get to each of the items. I want to thank Martin Hernandez for spending a little bit more than the average time with us today. And Martin, thank you again. Give us one real quick shout out for your business today, and then we will end our recording.
Well, it was a pleasure being part of the webinar, and I hope I've answered some of the questions that somebody might have at the moment while listening to the webinar. If not, please feel free to contact me at SCT. Like I said, we offer workplace audits, OSHA compliance solutions, and expert witness services. But we also take pride in offering all our clients private and public sector reliable and responsible services. So our mission is to provide our clients cost savings for all their engineering and health safety needs. And also, if you're an employee, feel free to call us as well. We're available to everyone.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you have a very safe journey back to your office. Thanks a lot, Martin.
No problem, Bea. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.